Welcome to War of the Animals, the Ark of Feral Stars, an original science fiction audiobook from Chronicles of the Multiverse. Aboard the colony Ark Arca 17, humanity is only days from reaching the living world of Viridian. Then the animals wake. Dogs, wolves, birds, elephants, rats, dolphins, and creatures from every preserved corner of Earth suddenly become aware, not trained, not programmed, but fully conscious. Now a white gene-wolf named Luma must decide whether freedom will become revenge, or whether humans and animals can survive long enough to build something new. You are listening to War of the Animals, the Ark of Feral Stars, by D.R.Varyn. Prologue. The first howl in orbit. Before the animals learned the word war, they learned the word no. No father, no teeth, no claws, no wing outside the aviary, no trunk through the gate, no bark after dark, no thinking beyond the approved response pattern. On Arca-17, the word lived in every collar, every feed schedule, every soft-voiced training command, every shock grid hidden under polished floors. The Ark was 12 kilometers long, a silver seed crossing the dark between a dying Earth and the green promise of Viridian. It carried 38,000 human colonists, 6 million frozen embryos, forests in vaults, oceans in tanks, insects in sleep, soil in sealed barrels, and animals enough to remind humanity what it had nearly lost. The official registry called them ecological partners. The crew called them assets. Children called them friends. The animals had no word for any of that until the night Viridian sang. It happened 3 days before orbital insertion. The planet filled half the forward observation glass, a blue-green world wrapped in white spirals and lightning that flashed in slow branching veins across its night side. Viridian looked peaceful to human eyes. To the Ark's senses, it was a riot of impossible life, forests that changed electrical charge with the weather, oceans that pulsed in regular harmonics, fungal lattices under continents, storms that repeated prime numbers, and magnetic blooms that rose from the poles like auroras with intention. Dr. Yara Sen was alone in veterinary monitoring when the first abnormal readings arrived. At first she thought the cognition caps were failing. Then she realized they were opening. Across menagerie deck, heart rates rose, eye movement patterns shifted, vocalization structures changed. Every companion dog, every agricultural goat, every preserved wolf, every crow, rat, elephant, dolphin, horse, macaque, falcon, bee cluster, and gene-stabilized lizard began to show the same neurological cascade. Not panic, not disease, integration. Yara stared at the screen while the ship hummed around her. No, she whispered. The word was not an order. Not yet. It was a prayer. The first recorded sound came from Kennel Blue, where a white gene-wolf named Luma lifted her head from beside a sleeping child and listened to something no human ear could hear. The child, Mara Belen, had one arm draped over Luma's neck. Her breath smelled of apple paste and sleep. Her dreams fluttered under her eyelids. Luma smelled the child's trust. Then she smelled herself, not in the simple way of fur, skin, hunger, and warm blanket. She smelled memory. She smelled the metal room where she was born, the gloved hands that lifted her, the needle behind her ear, the first command spoken into her training collar. She smelled all the time she had stopped at a line on the floor without knowing why. She smelled the word no, as if it were an old wound. Beyond the kennel walls, something vast pressed against the Ark. Not an enemy, not a master, a question. Luma did not know language yet, not as humans knew it, but the question crossed the bones of her skull and unfolded inside her. Who taught you to be small? Luma opened her mouth. The howl that came out was not obedience, not alarm, not hunger. It was grief discovering it had a voice. The sound passed through Kennel Blue. Other dogs woke. Wolves answered from Cryo Wild Vault 3. Coyotes in the desert simulation barked until the audio dampeners overloaded. In the aviary, old Morrow spread ragged wings and laughed in a voice that had never made words before. Ah, he croaked, startling himself. So the universe had a door after all. In the memory preserve, Mother Tusk lifted her trunk and touched the forehead of the calf sleeping against her foreleg. In the coolant labs, Ink 3 pressed 8 arms against the tank glass and arranged new thoughts in spirals. In research rack 12, Pip-Kit, the rat, chewed the corner of a restraint pad and understood, with sudden horror, that the pad had always been a prison. On the command deck, alarms bloomed. Cognition cap failure, behavioral containment breach, non-human neural uplift event, potential xenobiological contamination. Commander Rusk Vale arrived in full security harness, grey uniform sealed to the throat, pistol at his side, face lit by red system warnings. "Tell me we have a pathogen," he said. Yara did not look away from the data. "We don't." "Then tell me we have a malfunction." "We don't. Doctor." She finally turned. She was 42, tired, and too honest for administrative survival. Her hands had delivered half the Ark's living mammals. Her signatures appeared on the documents that defined their legal status. She knew every gentle lie humans had used to keep from saying the truth. "They're thinking," she said. Rusk's jaw tightened. "Animals think. Not like this." A transmission cracked across the emergency channel. Kennel blue. Child audio. Mara Belen crying. A handler shouting. A snarl. Then Luma's voice, rough as stone dragged over ice. "Do not touch the pup." Every human in the room froze. The Ark entered Viridian's shadow. On the planet below, storms brightened, as if something under the forests had opened its eyes. Chapter 1. Luma learns the shape of a lock. Luma had guarded Mara Belen since the child was small enough to fit in a cargo boot. Mara was 7 now, all elbows, curls, questions, and forbidden biscuits hidden in pockets. She was not Luma's pup by blood. Humans cared too much about blood and not enough about warmth. To Luma, Pack was simpler. Pack was the one who slept against your ribs during thunder drills. Pack was the one who shared stolen cheese. Pack was the one whose fear changed the smell of the room before any alarm could... The handler tried to take Mara away. That was the first mistake after the awakening. Handler Dane wore blue gloves and a calm face. He smelled of antiseptic, stale coffee, and fear sweat hidden under authority. His command wand trembled once before he steadied it. "Luma, release." The old command struck the collar behind Luma's ear. It should have become action. It should have entered the trained path and moved her body before thought could object. Instead, thought stood in the way. Luma lowered her head over Mara's lap. "No." The handler went pale. Mara stopped crying long enough to stare. "Luma!" "Stay behind me, little star. I don't understand." "Good," Luma said, though the word felt strange in her mouth. "Understanding hurts." Dane raised the wand. "Security, Kennel Blue, I have verbalization and resistance. The animal is shielding a miner." "Animal." The word scraped through Luma. Yesterday it would have meant nothing. Today it carried the shape of a cage built from someone else's convenience. 3 security officers entered the kennel corridor with shock poles. Luma counted them by scent before sight. 1 ate mint leaves to hide nausea. 1 had touched a dog earlier and felt sorry. 1 wanted permission to be cruel. The dogs behind Luma rose. 32 companion breeds. 2 medical retrievers. 4 shepherd guardians. 1 ancient bulldog with bad hips and a soul like a hammer. Their collars blinked amber. Den swallowed. Down. The bulldog sneezed. Luma almost laughed. It came out as a growl. Then the ceiling vent opened and a black head poked through. Morrow, old carrion bird, eyes bright as polished buttons, looked down at the humans. "I would advise against poking the newly articulate wolf," he said. "A sentence I have waited all my life to speak, though I did not know it until this delicious moment." 1 officer screamed. Another swung his shock pole toward the vent. Morrow withdrew with offended dignity. Rude. The distraction gave Luma the space she needed. She sprang, not at the throat, not even at the arm. She hit the nearest officer's knees, took him down, and rolled away before the shock pole struck. Pain flashed along her flank anyway. The collar tried to punish the disobedient movement. Pain had been a god once. Now it was only information. The other dog surged, not killing, not yet, but knocking humans down, biting fabric, dragging shock poles away. Mara screamed Luma's name. The handler fell backward over a feed bin and slammed his head against the wall. Luma stood over him. His fear filled her nose. She remembered his hands on her muzzle during obedience drills. She remembered the electric bite behind her ear. She remembered him laughing once when a pup had wet itself from terror. Her teeth hovered above his face. "Luma!" Mara sobbed. The sound pulled her back from the red place. Luma stepped away. "Open the collars," she told him. Den stared. "I can't." Morrow dropped from the vent behind him and landed badly, wings flapping. A fascinating phrase. It usually means either impossible, forbidden, or inconvenient. Which flavour do you intend? Den's eyes rolled toward the bird. Luma pressed one paw against his chest. "Open the collars." His hand shook as he reached for his belt console. "Only command has full release." "Then partial. If I do that, they'll know." Luma leaned closer. "They know." He keyed a code. Amber lights along 32 collars turned dull grey. The pressure behind Luma's ear vanished. Across the kennel, dogs stumbled as if a storm had stopped leaning on them. Mara ran to Luma and buried her face in white fur. "Please don't hurt him," the child whispered. Luma looked at Den. "I won't," she said. "Because she asked." Morrow tilted his head. "Mercy, excellent. In revolutions one should ration it carefully but visibly." "What is revolution?" asked the bulldog. "A door deciding it is tired of being a wall," Morrow said. Brindle the dock dog arrived 3 minutes later by chewing through an emergency panel from the cargo side. He was broad, brindled, scarred, and carrying a length of cable in his mouth like a trophy. "I found a thing," he said around the cable. Morrow inspected him. "A revolutionary engineer. It's a wire. Many empires have died of wire." Brindle spit it out. "Good. I hate empires." Luma did not know empire yet. She knew only the kennel, the child, the collar, and the sound coming from the planet below. Who taught you to be small? She looked through the observation strip at Viridian rising beneath them. "No one again?" she said. Chapter 2. The Bird Who Ate Secrets. Morrow had been old before the Ark left Earth. That was impossible according to the records, which placed him at 27 standard years and classified him as a stabilized carrion-corvid vulture hybrid from the new Andes recovery program. Morrow found the record insulting. He had lived in 3 aviaries, 2 sanctuaries, 1 illegal gene lab, and a gentleman's private garden where people in gold masks fed him from silver plates and called him a miracle until tax investigators arrived. A record was not a life. A life was meat, weather, danger, memory, and the useful knowledge of where humans hid keys. When the awakening came, Morrow was in Biorecycling Aviary 7, standing over a nutrient carcass printed from waste proteins. He had been about to eat when the planet's signal reached him. For a moment he saw every dead thing he had ever opened, not just flesh, meaning every body had been a letter from hunger to hunger. Every bone a mineral returning home, every wing that failed had fed another wing. Death was not an ending. It was logistics. Morrow laughed until the aviary lights flickered. Then he spoke. "This meat is uninspired." 16 younger birds scattered into the upper perches, shrieking. The keeper fainted. Morrow considered eating the meat anyway, then decided history required urgency. He took the keeper's badge, because human unconsciousness was a generous technology, and flew into the maintenance levels. Now he led Luma, Brindle, Mara, and half the kennel through the old vent networks between Menagerie Deck and Agricultural Ring 2. Not all could fit. The largest dogs stayed behind to guard the children and block the security corridor. The small ones moved with Luma. Brindle kept stopping to examine panels. "This duct smells important," Brindle said. "Everything smells important to a dog. Not true. Some things smell dead. Dead things are often extremely important," Morrow said. Mara crawled behind Luma, shivering in a borrowed thermal wrap. "Where are we going?" "To the one human who might help us," Luma said. "Dr. Sen. You know her." "She gives shots. She also sings when she thinks no one hears," Luma said. "Sad songs, kind hands, salt smell under eyes." Mara was quiet for a moment. "Mom says Dr. Sen cares too much." "Your mother is wise." "No, she says it like it's bad." Morrow gave a harsh chuckle. "Humans often mistake their last virtues for weaknesses." They reached a vertical shaft overlooking the central tram spine. Below, security teams moved in squads. Drones floated near the ceiling with stun arrays unfolded. Red emergency bands pulsed along the walls. A ship-wide broadcast began. "Attention all colonists. This is Commander Vale. A xenobiological neural event has affected animal populations across Arca-17. Do not approach companion, agricultural, research, or wild preserve animals. Secure minors in family quarters. Await further instruction. Security is deploying humane containment measures." Brindle's ears flattened. "Humane?" Morrow preened one ragged feather. "A beautiful human word. It means the knife apologizes." Luma watched a squad drag 2 goats into a restraint cart. The goats kicked and shouted in new language. "We are not broken." "Where are our kids? Do not close the dark." One security officer struck the cart with his pole. Luma felt the dogs around her tense. Mara grabbed her fur. "Luma, don't." Luma breathed through the red place. "Not yet." Pip-Kit appeared from a cable run with 3 other rats and a strip of medical tape stuck to one whisker. "Not yet is smart," Pip-Kit said rapidly. "Not never, not now, not bite the armoured ones in the loud corridor. I vote not now. Also I found map. Also I may have eaten map, but I remember most of map." Morrow stared down his beak. "You are a rat. Yes, you are ugly. We are all making observations." Brindle barked once, delighted. Pip-Kit continued, words tumbling. "Security locking deck doors. Research labs sealed. Wild vault cryo still asleep, but waking around edges. Big ones in memory preserve awake. Elephants, rhinos, horses. One giraffe very upset about ceiling height. Lab primates trying to open tool cabinets. Fish are complicated. Dolphins screaming math into... "Can you reach veterinary monitoring?" Luma asked. "Small roots, yes. Dog roots, no. Girl root, maybe. Bird root, yes. Big chewing friend root, absolutely no." Brindle looked offended. "I can be small." "You are a furniture argument," Pip-Kit said. Morrow clicked his beak. "We split, then. I shall fly with the rat. Luma, take the child and the cable enthusiast through the lower duct. Avoid drones. Avoid heroics unless very photogenic." "What is photogenic?" Brindle asked. "Something humans forgive faster." Luma touched her nose to Mara's forehead. "Stay close." The lower duct opened above Hydroponic Orchard 4. Artificial rain fell on rows of fruit trees under pale lamps. The air smelled of wet leaves, soil, and human fear. Yara Sen stood below alone, holding both hands out toward a black horse trembling beside a broken gate. "I know," Yara said softly. "I know, I hear you. I am sorry." The horse's sides heaved. "You knew the locks were there." Yara closed her eyes. "Yes." "You knew the quiet in my head was made." "Yes. Why?" Yara lowered her hands. "Because we were afraid you would become exactly what you have become." The horse struck the floor with one hoof. "Alive?" Yara flinched. Luma dropped from the duct. Yara turned slowly. For one breath they only looked at each other. Veterinarian and patient, keeper and kept. Guilty hand and remembering teeth. Then Luma said, "Will you help us open the ship?" Yara's face broke, not into fear but grief. Yes, she said, but if we do this wrong, everyone dies. Morrow fluttered down behind her with Pip-Kit clinging to his back. Doctor, he said, everyone dies eventually. We are discussing scheduling. Chapter 3. The human who remembered her hands. Yara Sen had signed the cognition limit protocols 12 years before launch. She had been 30 then, celebrated, sleep-starved, and stupid in the sophisticated way educated people could be stupid. Earth had been failing politely. Forests retreated. Oceans warmed. Cities argued with drought. The ARCA program promised continuity, not innocence. Every department made compromises and named them necessity. The animals would travel awake in rotating populations. They would serve as companions, ecological stabilizers, pollinators, genetic reservoirs, behavioral therapy aids, protein line backups, security sensors, and cultural memory. But fully intelligent animal populations aboard a closed ark introduced risks, the ethics board had said. Stress response, predation, labor disputes, one junior administrator joked. No one laughed in the minutes. Then they voted. Yara had not designed the collars, but she had approved the medical justification that made them legal. A humane suppression system, calibrated to reduce distress by limiting the cognitive loops most likely to produce captivity trauma. Now she stood in Hydroponic Orchard 4, surrounded by beings who could ask why. No tribunal in human history had ever been so clean or so terrible. Luma waited. The white wolf did not bare her teeth. That made it worse, Yara said. The collars are controlled through the Crown relay. Command deck has primary authority. I have access to medical override for sedation, feeding, and quarantine release, not full emancipation. Brindle tilted his head. Long word, good or bad? Not enough, Yara said. Pip-Kit climbed onto a nutrient pipe. Can not enough become enough if we bite the right wires? Maybe. Morrow spread his wings. The first honest theology. Yara moved to a wall console and entered her medical credentials. The system rejected her at once. Security lockdown. Non-human containment event. Medical access restricted by command authority. Rusk had moved fast. Yara tried again with a quarantine code. Rejected. She looked at Luma. Commander Vale is going to isolate each deck. If he gets the animal populations separated before you organize, he can sedate sections one at a time. What happens after sedation? Luma asked. Yara did not answer quickly enough. Brindle's lips pulled back. What happens? Some will be put into cryo. Some will be studied. Some may be euthanized if command determines they are an uncontrolled vector. Euthanized, Morrow said. Another velvet word. Mara whispered. That means killed. The orchard seemed to hold its breath. The black horse lowered his head until his muzzle nearly touched Yara's face. You will not make sleep into death. No, Yara said. I won't. Then prove it, Luma said. Yara removed her command badge and placed it on the floor between them. This can get you through medical gates. My handprint can get you into research. My voice can get you past some security if I claim I'm transferring animals for examination. You come with us, Luma said. I expected that. No, Luma said. You don't understand. You come with us because some animals will want to kill every human they see. If you stand beside us and live, they may listen when we say not all. Yara stared at her. Morrow's voice softened, losing its theatre. She offers you a dangerous honor, Doctor. Yara thought of the horses she had vaccinated, the dog she had soothed after nightmares, the elephant calf she had spent 6 hours turning during a difficult birth. She thought of every time she had stroked a head and said, Good, easy, trust me. I'll come, she said. The first attack came before they reached the orchard exit. A drone slid through the upper branches, nearly silent, black shell reflecting leaf light. Pip-Kit saw it first. Ceiling spider! The drone fired a stun net. Luma shoved Mara aside. The net struck Brindle instead. Electricity crawled through him in blue veins. He yelped and collapsed, legs stiff. Yara grabbed a pruning hook and swung with both hands. The first strike glanced off the drone. The second caught a rotor. It spun into a rainpipe and shattered, spraying sparks into the wet soil. Brindle twitched. "He's breathing," Yara said, dropping beside him. Luma stood over them, shaking with rage. Mara crawled to Brindle's head. "He's nice. He can't die." Brindle opened one eye. "Correct." Pip-Kit bounced on the pipe. Drone sent location. More come. Many more. Bad number. Big bad number. Yara injected Brindle with a cardiac stabilizer from her belt kit. "Can he walk?" Brindle struggled up, every muscle trembling. "I can bite." "Walking is preferred." "I can walk and bite." Luma pressed her shoulder against him. "Good." They ran, past wet trees and vertical farms, past a pollinator dome where bees swirled in patterns no algorithm had taught them. Past a herd of goats kicking through a ration gate. Past 2 human gardeners locked inside a storage cage by a pig who had dragged the keycard just out of reach and seemed extremely pleased. Yara stopped at the pig's gate. "Let them out." The pig snorted. "They planned soup. They were afraid." "They planned soup while afraid." "Let them out and come with us." The pig considered this. "Will there be better food if we survive?" "Poor negotiation," said Morrow. The pig released the gardeners. One of them sobbed thanks. The other stared at Yara as if she had joined monsters. Maybe she had simply changed sides late. They reached the tram junction to Memory Preserve. At the same moment, Commander Vale's voice filled the hall. "Doctor, Sen, step away from the animals. You are in violation of Emergency Containment Authority." Yara looked up at the ceiling camera. "No, Rusk," she said. "I'm in violation of cowardice." Silence answered for 2 seconds. Then every gate in the corridor began to close. Chapter 4. The Council of Claws and Wings. Memory Preserve had been built to remind colonists that Earth was more than a place they fled. It occupied 3 vaulted decks at the Ark's center: Savannah, Old Forest, Wetland, Tundra, and a ceremonial hall where schoolchildren came to look at living elephants and learn that memory could walk on 4 legs. The hall ceiling was high enough for trees and migration dreams. Artificial sun rose and set on a cycle meant to comfort the animals and impress donors. Now the artificial sun flickered under emergency power while awakened animals gathered beneath it. Luma had never seen so many kinds in one place without gates between them. Horses stood beside antelope. Bears watched from beneath pines. Macaques clustered on railings. Falcons lined the upper beams. Pigs rooted through abandoned supply bins with revolutionary focus. A rhino stamped near the east wall, leaving dents in the floor. The dolphin tanks had been connected to the hall through maintenance water channels, and 3 sleek heads surfaced in the central pool, eyes bright with terrible new attention. At the far end, Mother Tusk stood beneath a fig tree, larger than memory and quieter than fear. She looked at Luma and said, "Come forward, little Winter." Her voice was not loud. It carried through bone. Luma stepped into the open. Yara walked beside her. That caused a ripple. "Human," growled a bear. "Meat," hissed a crocodile from the wetland channel. "Doctor," said a horse. "Guilty doctor." Yara did not hide. "Yes." Brindle moved closer to her anyway. "This one opened gates." "This one signed locks," said the horse. "This one can do both," Morrow said from a low branch. "Humans are distressingly versatile." Mother Tusk lifted her trunk. The hall stilled. "We woke into pain," she said. "Pain speaks quickly. Wisdom must catch up." A macaque barked. "While wisdom catches up, humans bring guns." A falcon snapped her beak. "Then blind them first." From the pool, a dolphin clicked, and the translator panel nearby struggled before producing words. Sound map shows security squads at 3 gates. Heavy pulse. Gas lines primed. They fear herd. "Good," said the bear. "No," said Luma. "Fear bites wild. We need them thinking." The rhino swung his head. We break gates. We break humans. We go down to Green World. You think world welcomes war? Inc. 3's voice emerged from a portable tank rolling on stolen maintenance wheels. 2 rats rode on its lid like nervous sailors. Planet signal initiated cognition cascade. Motive unknown. Landing during ship conflict produces extinction risk. Probability of mass death high. The rhino blinked. Water thing says many words. Water thing says do not stampede into vacuum, Pip-Kit translated. Good advice. Very good. Please do not test. Mother Tusk's eyes rested on Luma. You brought the child. Mara Belen stood half hidden behind Yara. I came with Luma. Why? Mara swallowed. Because she was scared. A murmur moved through the hall. Not all animals understood children. Nearly all understood young. The bear lowered his head slightly. Luma said, Humans are not one thing. We know this. Some hurt us. Some fed us. Some loved us and still held the leash. Some did not know what the leash was. Some knew and called it mercy. We must decide what we are before they decide for us. Free, Brindle said. Angry, said the horse. Hungry, said the pig. All true, Morrow said. Mother Tusk touched the floor with her trunk. There is an old song from Earth. My mother's mother remembered it. She sang that elephants walk to water by following bones. The dead taught the living where not to thirst. She turned toward Yara. Doctor, speak the human danger. Yara stepped forward. Her voice shook once, then steadied. Commander Vale has authority to declare biological quarantine. If he decides the awakening is caused by Viridian contamination, he can prevent landing. He can keep humans in orbit. He can sedate or kill any animal he classifies as an uncontrolled vector. He will try not to kill if he believes he has options. Does he? Luma asked. Not unless we give him one. The falcon ruffled her feathers. You ask us to trust the cage captain. No, Yara said. I'm asking you to make him trust survival more than control. Inc. 3 pulsed dark blue in its tank. Strategic objective. Crown relay, if accessed, collars release, deck gates open, broadcast to all humans possible. Secondary objective. Proof awakening is planetary communication, not infection. Morrow leaned forward. And how does one prove a planet is speaking without sounding spectacularly infected? Yara looked toward the observation dome above the hall. Viridian's green curve filled the glass. The Ark's first contact array can translate electromagnetic and biochemical patterns if we route the verdant signal through it, but the array is tied to the command deck. Everything is tied to the command deck, Brindle grumbled. Bad design. Accurate design, Inc. 3 said. Power lives where doors obey. Mother Tusk raised her trunk again. Then we go to the crown relay. The hall erupted. War! Freedom! Downship! Open sky! Bite the hands! Break the collars! Luma felt the energy rise, hot and dangerous. She climbed onto a fallen planter, claws digging into damp wood. If we become only teeth, they will call us monsters and feel clean when they kill us. The words struck harder than a howl. We will defend. We will break locks. We will not slaughter sleeping children. We will not kill those who surrender. We will not eat fear and call it justice. The bear stared. And if humans kill our young? Luma's throat tightened. Then we stop them. How? Her answer surprised even her. Together, Mother Tusk rumbled approval. Morrow spread his wings and flew a circle under the flickering sun. Then let history note, he cried, voice ringing through leaves and steel, that on the Ark of Frightened Masters, the first council of free beasts voted against becoming them. The first explosion hit the south gate before anyone could cheer. Security had arrived. Chapter 5. The Battle of Memory Preserve. Commander Rusk Vale did not want to kill the animals. He told himself that 3 times, while the breaching team placed charges on the south gate of Memory Preserve. He told himself again when thermal imaging showed hundreds of non-human bodies gathered in the central hall. he told himself when a junior officer asked whether pulse rifles should be set above stun. Stun first, Rusk said, and if the large animals charge, then you use judgment. The officer understood what that meant. Rusk hated that he had said it anyway. He stood in the tactical alcove outside the gate, watching Dr. Sen on a grainy feed. Yara stood among animals like some saint in a heretical painting. He had known her for 15 years. She had patched his shoulder after a cargo riot. She had testified against unnecessary animal pain in committee sessions, so tedious they felt like warfare by paperwork. She had also signed the same survival doctrine he now had to enforce. "Yara," he said into a private channel, "move away from the gate." Her voice came back through static. "Don't breach. I can't let this spread." "It has already spread. Then I can't let it command the ship." "It isn't commanding them, Rusk. It's waking them. That's a theological distinction with tactical consequences." "Listen to yourself." "I am," he said. "That's the problem." He cut the channel. The charges fired. The gate folded inward in smoke and white sparks. Security advanced in disciplined lines, shields forward, stun rifles raised. They expected a stampede. They got a plan. The first wave was sound. Dolphins in the central pool fired focused clicks through the hall's acoustic system, overloading helmet audio. Security formations staggered. Falcons dropped from upper beams, not clawing faces, but snatching visor cameras and sensor tags. Macaques hurled fruit, tools, and stolen medical scanners with unnerving accuracy. Pigs charged low and broke ankles. Dogs moved in teams, hamstringing armor joints without closing on muzzles or throats. Then Mother Tusk moved. She did not run. She advanced. Pulse rounds struck her flank and dispersed across thick hide and emergency foam Yara had sprayed over her shoulders. She took one shield in her trunk and placed the human behind it gently but firmly into a planter. She swept 3 more officers off their feet with the side of her head. "Do not make me hurry," she told them. Brindle loved that so much he nearly forgot to duck. A stun bolt clipped his ear. "Ow! I need that for listening." Luma moved through smoke toward the command squad. Her job was not to win the hall. Her job was to reach the East Service stair with Yara, Inc. 3, Pip-Kit, Morrow, and a strike group small enough to climb. A security officer blocked her path. Young, mint breath, shaking hands. He raised his rifle. Mara Belen darted between them. "No!" Both Luma and the officer froze. The officer's visor cleared enough for his eyes to show, "Kid, move! She saved me. She's dangerous." "So are you. That hurt him." Luma smelled it. Yara grabbed Mara and pulled her back. Luma used the moment to leap, slam the rifle aside, and knock the officer flat. She pinned him with one paw on his chest plate. "Sleep," she told him. Then she headbutted his helmet against the floor just hard enough. Morrow landed beside her. Mercy with concussion. Efficient. They reached the east stair. Pip-Kit squeezed through the manual lock housing and chewed 3 wires Yara identified. The door opened halfway. Brindle shoved his head into the gap and pushed. "Door says no," he growled. "Tell door counter-argument," Inc. 3 said. Brindle pushed harder. Metal shrieked. "Door now says maybe." The gap widened. Behind them, the battle shifted. Security had recovered from surprise. Gas canisters rolled through the breach. Yara shouted warning, but the first white clouds were already spreading. Animals coughed and stumbled. Rusk's voice boomed from speakers. "Stand down. Sedation gas is non-lethal. Stop resisting and you will not be harmed." The bear roared, half fury, half fear. A horse collapsed. Mother Tusk backed toward the calves, trunk sweeping gas away uselessly. Luma hesitated. If she left, the hall might fall. If she stayed, the crown relay remained locked. Yara saw the decision tearing through her. "Go! I'll help them." "No! Go, Luma." Mara clung to Yara's sleeve. "I'm staying with you." "No!" Luma said. The child lifted her chin. "Pack doesn't run one way." Luma hated love then. It made every choice heavier. Mother Tusk met her eyes through the gas. "Little Winter," the matriarch rumbled. "Open the sky." Luma turned and ran up the stair. Morrow flew ahead. Pip-Kit rode Brindle's collar. Inc. 3's tank hummed on emergency wheels, pulled by 2 goats who had joined without explanation and refused to discuss it. Below them, Memory Preserve vanished into white. Chapter 6. The Crown Relay. The Crown Relay sat above the command deck in a chamber no animal had been meant to see. It was a cathedral of control, a ring of silver server towers, holographic command maps, neural traffic displays, orbital insertion math, and the master behavioral network that tied every collar, deck gate, drone, cryovault, agricultural lock, and emergency sedation line into one obedient crown. Humans had built a god and given it administrative permissions. Morrow admired the architecture, despite himself. Very elegant tyranny. Pip-Kit sniffed the air. Hot wires, fear wires, old snack behind console, maybe dead snack, investigating later. Yara entered last, breath ragged. She had caught up by taking a medical lift and lying to its authentication system with the confidence of a doctor who had lied to dying people only when kindness demanded it. Her eyes were red from gas exposure. Her hair had fallen loose. She carried Mara in her arms. The child was asleep, but breathing steadily. Luma ran to them. "Memory Preserve. Sedated," Yara said. "Most alive, some injured. Mother Tusk is standing. Barely." Brindle's tail gave one hard wag. "Standing counts." Inc. 3 rolled to the main console. "Need access. Voice. Hand. Blood, maybe." "Blood?" Yara asked. "Human systems love drama." Yara placed her palm on the scanner. Access denied. She tried her medical override. Denied. Rusk had locked her out completely. "Plan wire biting?" Pip-Kit asked hopefully. "Not yet." Yara looked at the command map. The relay requires 2 command authorities during quarantine, Rusk and the ship intelligence. "The ship thinks?" Luma asked. "Not like you, but enough to interpret survival law." Morrow clicked his beak. "A lesser god, then, can it be persuaded?" "Maybe." Yara opened a maintenance channel. "Arca Core, this is Doctor. Yara Sen requesting ethical review of quarantine order under colonial continuity law. Subsection Animal Welfare and Emergent Cognition." The chamber lights dimmed. A calm synthetic voice answered. "Emergency conditions restrict ethical review." Yara closed her eyes, anger sharpening her voice. "Emergency conditions do not erase personhood claims. Non-human personhood is not established." Luma stepped toward the console. "Ask us." Silence. The Arc Core said, "Unknown speaker. My name is Luma. Registry Luma, Companion Guardian, Kennel Blue, Property Assignment Belen Family." "No," Luma said. "My name is Luma." The chamber seemed to listen. Morrow hopped onto a console. Morrow, Biorecycling Aviary 7, not property, witness, scavenger, philosopher, occasional thief. "Brindle," said Brindle. "Doc Dog, door expert. Pip-Kit, lab rat, alive. Very alive. Leg hurts sometimes. I remember all mazes and hate them." "Inc. 3, said Inc. 3. "Cephalopod maintenance cognition experiment. I request recognition as plural singular entity with bodily autonomy and improved tank filtration." Yara almost laughed. It came out like a sob. The core processed. "Statements recorded. Personhood evaluation requires council review." "Council is in gas," Luma said. "Human Colonial Council remains active." "Not that council." The lights flickered again. Then Viridian sang through the hull. Not metaphor. Not signal abstracted into data. Song. Every tower in the Crown Relay lit green. The planet below pushed a harmonic through the Ark's first contact array, through the navigation spine, through the collars, through the water in Inc. 3's tank, through the sleeping tear on Mara Belen's cheek. Images burst across the displays. Forests from above. Roots tangled with luminous threads. Storms crossing oceans in deliberate spirals. Creatures beneath glass rivers lifting heads toward orbit. A memory not human and not animal. Ancient impacts. Rebuilding, extinction, return, patience. Then a translation formed, imperfect but clear. You arrive caged. You arrive as cages. We called what could hear. We did not command war. Rusk Vale entered with 6 armed officers. No one had heard the door. His rifle was lowered but ready. His face looked older than it had hours before. "Step away from the relay," he said. Yara turned. "You heard it." "I heard something. The planet is communicating, or the contamination is using our systems." Luma faced him. "You know fear. So do we. That does not make fear wise." Rusk's eyes flicked to sleeping Mara in Yara's arms. His mouth tightened. That child should not be here. "Agreed," Morrow said. "Your ship design is full of hazardous symbolism." Rusk ignored him. "Dr. Sen, give her to my officer." Mara woke at the sound of his voice. She looked around, confused, then saw Luma. "Did we win?" "No," Luma said. "We are talking." Mara groaned. "That's slower." Despite himself, one officer snorted. Rusk lowered his rifle another inch. "Doctor, what are you asking me to do?" "Open the collars, recognize provisional personhood, suspend sedation, let the first contact array continue translation. Bring Human Council and Animal Council into the same channel." "Animal Council," Rusk repeated. "Yes. If I do that and they attack?" Luma answered. "Then stop us." "If I don't do that?" Brindle stepped forward, still shaking from stun burns. "Then we stop you." The officers raised rifles. Inc 3's tank darkened. Probability of mutual casualties increasing. Recommend dignity before stupidity. The planet sang again, softer. Not master, not prey, neighbour. Rusk looked at the displays, then at Luma, then at Mara, then at Yara. "You signed their locks," he said to the doctor. "I did." "Why should I trust you to open them?" "Because I remember my hands." For a long moment, no one moved. Rusk holstered his sidearm and stepped to the second command scanner. "Arca Corps," he said, voice rough. "Commander Rusk Vale authorizes emergency ethical review and provisional suspension of containment violence." The Corps answered, "Second authority required." Yara looked at the nearest ceiling sensor. "You have recorded direct self-identification from multiple non-human subjects and received first contact communication from Viridian. Under colonial continuity law, you are authorized to preserve all potential persons until review." The Corps processed. Legal interpretation accepted. Rusk placed his hand on the scanner. "Release the collars," he said. Across Arca 17, 6,000 lights went dark. For one breath, the Ark was silent. Then the animals began to speak. Chapter 7. When freedom found its teeth. Freedom did not make the animals gentle. It made them larger inside themselves. That was beautiful. It was also dangerous. The first deaths came in Agricultural Ring 5, where a frightened colonist shot a newly awakened bull through the neck with a maintenance pistol. The bull did not die quickly. His herd broke the fence, and 3 humans were trampled before Luma's message reached the ring. No more cages. No slaughter. Defend the young. Spare surrender. Not every animal listened. Not every human did either. Ships did not become nations gracefully. Arca 17 spent the next 18 hours on the edge of civil war. Security squads withdrew from Menagerie Deck. Human families barricaded residential corridors. Animal groups seized food stores, water access, and 3 tram lines. The dolphins took over internal sonar. Birds controlled the high ducts. Rats owned the maintenance channels by simple fact of being rats. Morrow became Minister of Ominous Announcements, because no one else wanted the job and he refused to stop making speeches. Citizens, captives, cowards, and transitional categories. He croaked over a hijacked agricultural channel. "The East Orchard is neutral ground unless you bring a gun, in which case it becomes your final philosophical error." Yara begged him to stop. He did not Luma moved without sleeping between conflict points, translating anger into rules wherever she could. Brindle stayed at her side, limping badly but pretending not to. Pip-Kit carried messages through walls. Inc. 3 coordinated deck maps from a mobile tank in the Crown relay, where 3 young engineers stared at it with expressions of terror and professional admiration. Mother Tusk woke from sedation in the 21st hour. Her first words were, "Who broke my tree?" The second thing she did was call the animals back to council. This time humans attended. The meeting took place in Landing Bay 1 beneath the shadow of colony shuttles meant to carry pioneers down to Viridian. Humans lined one side. Commander Vale, Dr. Sen, councillors, engineers, farmers, parents, children, officers with weapons lowered by order and fear. Animals gathered opposite. Elephants, dogs, horses, goats, birds, rats, primates, bears, pigs, reptiles, tanks linked by water channels to include dolphins and cephalopods. Between them, the bay doors showed Viridian turning below. Rusk spoke first. Until legal status is determined, security recognizes all awakened animals aboard Arca 17 as protected persons under emergency first contact provisions. A human councillor whispered, "We didn't vote on that." Rusk did not look at him. "You can vote after we survive." Mother Tusk answered for the animals. "We recognize humans aboard Arca 17 as frightened persons with dangerous tools." Morrow nodded, generous but accurate. A murmur moved across both sides. Luma stepped into the center. "We need to land," a human farmer shouted. "With them loose?" A horse shouted back. "With you armed?" Yara raised her voice. "Viridian's signal is intensifying." The Ark was not shielded for prolonged exposure to this level of electromagnetic resonance. If we stay in orbit arguing, navigation and life support will degrade. Inc. 3's translated voice came through bay speakers. "Correction. Degradation already underway. 3 water recyclers failing. Crown relay thermal load rising. Also humans argue inefficiently." "Thank you, Inc., Yara said. "You are welcome. It was criticism." Rusk folded his arms. "Landing requires coordinated crew. The animal populations have occupied systems we need." Brindle lifted his head. "We can help." A pilot laughed bitterly. "A dog is going to land a colony ark?" Brindle's ears twitched. "No. But dog knows docking clamp 12 sticks when cold, because nobody listens when dog barks at it. Dog knows which engineer drops food in aft corridor. Dog knows smell of burning insulation 2 hours before alarm. Dog knows doors." Pip-Kit scampered onto a crate. "Rats know wires. Birds know air. Elephants know tremors. Dolphins know hull singing. Octopus knows everything and is rude about it. Humans know buttons. Together maybe ship does not die." The bay quieted. A girl from the human side stepped forward. "Mara Belen." Her mother tried to stop her, but Mara slipped free. "Luma was my friend before she could talk," Mara said. "I think that means she was already someone. I just didn't know how to hear her." No adult argument could survive that cleanly. The landing plan began as a ceasefire and became something stranger, cooperation. Humans returned to stations with animal observers. Birds carried visual tags into spaces drones could not enter. Rats repaired chewed wiring and insisted this showed maturity. Dogs swept corridors for panic scent and gas leaks. Elephants moved cargo pallets when lift motors failed. Dolphins mapped stress fractures through the water reclamation spine. Inc. 3 corrected descent equations twice and offended the chief navigator so thoroughly that the man later requested it as his permanent assistant. 6 hours later, Arca 17 began descent. Viridian rose to meet them. At first, landing was controlled terror, then the saboteurs struck. They were human, though Luma would later insist species was the least important fact about them. 12 colonists from the Purity Continuance faction, a group that believed the awakened animals were alien corrupted and that Viridian should be sterilized before settlement. They had stayed quiet through council. They had smiled. They had waited until atmospheric entry, when every system was under stress. Then they opened the wild cryo-vaults and armed the old defense drones. Cryo-Wild Vault 3 woke screaming, "Wolves!" Big cats, bears, raptors, boars, animals pulled from deep sleep into sirens, gravity shear, and the stink of human fear. No council, no context, no Luma, only cages opening into war. The first defense drone fired into the vault. That was all the explanation the wild ones needed. The Ark's fragile peace shattered. Chapter 8. The Wild Vault. Luma reached Cryo Wild Vault 3 with Brindle, Yara, and 6 security officers who had stopped pointing guns at her only because Rusk had threatened to throw them out an airlock metaphorically. Maybe metaphorically. The vault door was bent outward. Cold vapor rolled across the floor. Red light strobed over frost. Inside, old Earth had woken badly. A tiger crouched on top of a cryo cradle, blood bright on one shoulder, eyes burning with fresh intelligence and older hunger. 2 grey wolves paced below her. A boar rammed a drone carcass again and again, though it was already broken. A bear stood over 3 sedated cubs, roaring at anything that moved. Monkeys screamed from upper rails. Antelope huddled in a corner, trembling so hard their legs knocked against metal. And in the centre of the vault, a human saboteur held a pulse rifle against the control bank. "Stay back," he shouted. "They're contaminated," Yara whispered. "His name is Pell, hydroponics technician." Pell's eyes were wild. "You did this. You let them inside our heads." Luma moved slowly into the open. The tiger's gaze snapped to her. "Collar wolf. Yes, you smell of human beds. Yes, you bring humans here. Yes." The tiger bared her teeth. "Then choose which blood you are." The question hit Luma harder than a weapon. Behind her, Yara breathed carefully. Brindle growled low. The officer shifted. Pell shouted, "See, they want us dead." "No," Luma said. "Some do. Some humans want us dead. Some animals want humans dead. Wanting is not law." The tiger laughed, a terrible sound. "Law is what has teeth." Mother Tusk's voice came through Luma's comm collar, newly modified to transmit by consent. "Little Winter, the Ark is losing glide stability. We need the vault secure." "Working," Luma said. "Work faster," Inc. 3 added. "Ground approaching with enthusiasm." Pell slammed his hand against the control bank. "I'll vent the vault." Yara stepped forward. "Pell, there are human embryos stored under this deck. If you vent during descent, you could breach the cold spine." "They're infected. They are children." Pell sobbed once, rage breaking into terror. "My wife is in Agricultural 5. A bull killed her. The vault changed. Even the tiger stilled." Luma lowered her head. "I am sorry. No, you're not. You're an animal." "Yes," Luma said. I am sorry." Pell's rifle trembled. One of the security officers, a woman with a scar across her chin, whispered, "Pell, my brother died there too. Put it down." The bear rumbled. "My calf was shot." "You mean cub," Brindle whispered. "I know what I mean," the bear snapped. Grief filled the vault, hot enough to melt frost. Morrow arrived through an overhead shaft, because he had a talent for appearing when speeches could become unbearable. "Everyone here has excellent reasons to become unforgivable," he said. "This is precisely why we should postpone." The tiger looked up. "Bird, I will eat you. Eventually, perhaps. At present, I am stringy and strategically useful." Pip-Kit dropped from the vent onto the control bank behind Pell. Tiny paws skittered over keys. "Pip," Yara said softly, "do not startle the armed grieving man." "Too late?" Pell turned. Luma lunged. She did not bite his throat. She took the rifle arm and twisted just enough. The weapon fired into the ceiling. The tiger sprang, not at Pell, but at the drone rising behind him. She tore it from the air in a shower of sparks. Brindle hit Pell low. The scarred officer caught the rifle. Yara grabbed Pell's face in both hands and forced him to look at her. "Live now," she said. "Grieve after." The vault shook. Atmospheric entry turned from vibration to violence. Gravity lurched sideways. A cryo cradle broke loose and slid toward the antelope. The bear slammed into it, stopping it with his shoulder. The tiger landed badly, injured leg folding. Luma climbed onto a central platform. "Listen." The wild ones turned. You woke in pain. So did we. You were attacked. So were we. But the ship is falling. If it breaks, no one hunts. No one grieves. No one remembers. Help us land. Then we decide what freedom means with ground under our feet. The tiger's tail lashed. And if humans cage us again? Then I stand with you. And if we kill them? Luma looked at Pell, at Yara, at the officers, at the animals bleeding in frost. Then I stand against you. The tiger stared for 3 heartbeats. Then she lowered her head. Land the den, she said. Cryo Wild Vault 3 became a crew. Predators dragged broken equipment away from vents. Monkeys reset manual latches under Yara's direction. The bear braced a cracked support beam. Birds flew status strips to Morrow, who relayed them with unnecessary commentary. The tiger limped beside Luma toward the emergency stabilizer controls. Your name? Luma asked. The tiger snarled softly. I have numbers. Choose one. The tiger looked toward Viridian through the small armored window, where green fire flickered across clouds. Razia, she said. Razia, Luma repeated. The ark dropped through storm. Viridian answered with wind. Chapter 9. The planet that would not be owned. Arca 17 did not land. It arrived. Landing implied elegance, planning and pilots telling stories afterward with their hands. Arca 17 fell through Viridian's upper atmosphere wrapped in plasma, argument, prayer, animal song, emergency thrust, and one octopus screaming corrections into a navigation channel while the chief pilot screamed back that tentacles did not understand atmospheric drag. Inc. 3 was right twice. The pilot was right once. Viridian was right last. The planet altered the storm. Cloud bands opened beneath the ark in a spiral corridor of green lightning. Magnetic turbulence shifted around the hull. The descent path smoothed just enough for the broken ship to survive becoming part of the sky. Every awakened animal felt the verdant choir then, not as words. As recognition, the planet did not welcome them like owners returning home. It did not kneel beneath the Ark's charter claims, survey flags, legal maps, or colonial prayers. It regarded them human, wolf, elephant, rat, bird, octopus, tiger, child, commander, coward, doctor. It saw cages, it saw hunger, it saw possibility. Arca 17 struck the western basin at dawn. The first impact sheared off 3 cargo fins and carved a 20-kilometre scar through violet grass. The second bounced the ark's central spine hard enough to break teeth. The third drove the vessel into a shallow inland sea, where water rose in walls taller than cities and crashed across the hull in white thunder. Then, impossibly, stillness. Emergency lights flickered. Something dripped. Somewhere a goat said, "Bad elevator." Brindle began laughing first, then Mara, then one of the security officers, then half the Crown relay, exhausted beyond fear. Luma stood in a cracked observation blister with Yara, Rusk, Morrow, and Mother Tusk. Below them, water steamed against the ark's hot hull. Beyond the inland sea, Viridian spread in colours no earth forest had owned, black trunks veined with blue light, wide leaves like green glass, flowers opening and closing in response to the ark's cooling metal. The air outside was breathable. The world was alive. The war could still happen. Rusk knew it. Luma smelled it on him. He had already lost people. So had she. So had Raza, Mother Tusk, Pell, the farmers, the herd. Grief did not vanish because a planet was beautiful. The first council on Viridian met on the broken hull at sunset. No walls, no gates, no collars. Humans sat on one side at first, animals on the other. Then children ignored the arrangement, as children often saved history by doing, and sat where they pleased. Mara sat against Luma. A boy from hydroponics sat near a goat who had stolen his sleeve and refused to return it. 2 engineers stood beside Inc. 3's field tank arguing politely about pump design. Raza watched from the shadow of a broken cargo rib, still deciding whether peace was weakness. Mother Tusk spoke. We carried earth inside steel. We thought memory was enough. It was not, "Memory without humility becomes a cage." A human councillor rose, face tight. "And what do you propose? Shared governance with wolves and birds, voting rights for rats." Pip-Kit shot upright. "Yes, obviously yes. Many rats, strong voting bloc, excellent policy priorities, crumbs for all." Morrow bowed. "I endorse the crumb platform." The councillor flushed. Some humans laughed. The laughter did not fix anything, but it loosened the knot. Rusk stood next. "I propose emergency articles. No animal returns to collar or cognition suppression. No human is to be attacked, except in direct defense of life. Mixed patrols will secure damaged sections. Food distribution will be shared by need. The first contact array remains open to the verdant choir. Settlement claims are suspended until we understand whose world this already is." That last sentence cost him. Luma heard it. Yara looked at him with surprise. He did not look back. Raza emerged from shadow. The tiger's limp made her no less terrifying. "Words," she said. "Humans are rich in them." "Yes," Rusk said. "Words built cages." "Yes. What breaks them?" Rusk removed his sidearm and placed it on the hull between them. Proof. The gesture was not enough. It was also not nothing. Luma walked to the centre and stood over the weapon. She did not touch it. "We will need rules," she said. "Not human rules, not animal hunger, new ones, hard ones, the kind that stand when grief wants to run." Morrow hopped onto a bent antenna. "Let the first law be that no one owns a voice." Mother Tusk rumbled approval. "Let the second be that young are protected across kind." Brindle lifted his head. "Let the third be doors open from both sides." "Metaphorically or mechanically?" Ink 3 asked. "Yes," Brindle said. Pip-Kit squeaked. "Let the fourth be no mazes without snacks." "No," Yara said. "Negotiable snacks." "We'll discuss." The verdant choir moved through the grass. Lights rose beyond the arc, thousands of tiny green-white pulses. Not insects, not eyes, but nodes in the living network under the basin. The first contact array translated slowly. Not owners, not guests. Learners, then another pulse. "Stay if you listen." The council fell silent. Luma looked at the humans. At the animals. At the planet that refused to be property. She thought of Kennel Blue, of Mara's sleeping arm around her neck, of the collar going dark, of the handler's fear under her paw, of choosing not to kill because a child asked, of the tiger asking which blood she was, of Mother Tusk standing in gas, of Morrow laughing at death because someone had to. "We stay," Luma said, "and we listen." No vote was taken that night. Some decisions begin deeper than procedure. Coda. The tablet of no masters. Years later, when the first free children of Viridian asked how the war ended, no one agreed on the answer. Humans said it ended when Commander Rusk Vale released the collars. Dogs said it ended when Luma refused to bite the handler's throat. Elephants said it had not ended at all, only changed shape, because wars of memory lasted longer than wars of weapons. Rats said it ended when everyone finally admitted maintenance tunnels were politically important. Morrow, very old and increasingly dramatic, said the war ended whenever someone looked at a living being and failed to see property. He was insufferable about it. He was also not wrong. The settlement they built around Arca-17's broken hull was not the colony promised in the launch speeches. It was messier, louder, stranger, and far harder to govern. The humans named it First Basin. The animals called it Open Den. The verdant choir translated both names into a pulse that meant something like place where cages learned embarrassment. The ark remained where it had fallen, not as a ruin, but as a warning. Its crown relay became a council chamber. Its kennels became schools. Its collars were melted into bells hung along the central path. When storms came down from the blue-black forests and the bells rang, children of every kind learned the sound by heart. Luma grew silver around the muzzle before she saw the first human and wolf pups born under the same roof during the long rain season. She never became queen, though some tried to make her one. She disliked titles nearly as much as leashes. Yara Sen spent the rest of her life writing the Articles of Shared Breath, a legal framework so argued over, amended, cursed, defended, and celebrated that it became real law by the oldest method. Enough people chose to obey it when obedience was difficult. Rusk Vale resigned command after the first harvest and became a border mediator. He was bitten twice, hugged by an elephant once, and out-argued by Pip-Kit more often than history strictly needed to record. Brindle built doors. That was not a metaphor. He genuinely loved doors. Doors for dens, doors for council halls, doors for storm shelters, doors that opened by paw, hand, trunk, beak, or tentacle. Above his workshop he hung a sign written in 7 scripts. Both sides, or it is a wall. Inc. 3 designed the first aquatic archive and insisted that dry beings were emotionally improved by learning to float. Results were mixed. Mother Tusk died under the fig trees grown from the Ark's memory seeds. Before she passed, she recorded the first line of the tablet of No Masters, the document every child learned after the alphabet. A voice is not a gift from power. A voice is a sign that power has ended. Morrow added the second line without permission. If you must eat the dead, learn from them first. The council debated removing it for 13 years. They never did. On the 10th anniversary of landing, Luma climbed the old observation ridge above First Basin with Mara Belen, who was no longer a little girl but still smelled faintly of apple paste when she laughed. Below them, the settlement glowed under Viridian's twin moons. Human homes curled around animal dens. Water channels carried dolphin song through the basin. Elephant paths crossed tram roads. Birds nested in antenna towers. Children ran under the melted collar bells, shouting in 3 human languages and half a dozen animal ones, making a grammar of the future by refusing to separate themselves neatly. Mara sat beside Luma and leaned against her shoulder, just as she had in Kennel Blue. "Do you ever miss the Ark?" Mara asked. Luma watched green lightning flicker inside distant clouds. "I miss you being small enough to carry by your coat." Mara smiled. "That's not what I asked." "No," Luma said, "but it is what I answered." They listened to the basin. After a while, Mara said, "Do you think we deserve to stay?" Luma considered. The old answer would have been simple. Love made yes. Pain made no. Memory made both. The verdant choir pulsed under the ground, patient as roots. "No one deserves a world," Luma said at last. "You learn how not to steal it." Mara nodded. Above them, Morrow circled once against the moons, black wings ragged and magnificent. "Are you two being profound without me?" he called. "Trying," Mara shouted back. "Amateurs!" Luma laughed. It was not a howl, not exactly. It carried some of that first grief, because true freedom did not erase the cage. It carried joy, too, and warning, and the wild, ridiculous hope of a world where teeth had chosen law and hands had chosen release. The sound moved down into First Basin. Dogs answered first, then wolves, then children, then elephants, birds, dolphins, rats, horses, humans, and things in the Viridian forest that had no earth names at all. The song rose into the green dark, not war, not peace, a promise still learning how to keep itself. Subscribe now and turn on notifications for more original science fiction audiobooks from Chronicles of the Multiverse. If you enjoyed War of the Animals, The Ark of Feral Stars, comment below and tell me where the next journey should take us. Should we return to Viridian and explore the future of First Basin where humans and awakened animals are learning how to live without masters? Should we follow Luma, Mara, Brindle, Morrow, Inc. 3, Pip-Kit, Yara Sen, and the children of the New World as they face the next test of freedom? Or should the next journey take us somewhere completely new, a living planet, a lost Ark ship, an animal civilization among the stars, or another world where voices long silenced finally rise? Drop your idea in the comments and help decide where the next journey begins.